Hello, I'm Paul Dayton, and my website is pauldayton.us. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Unaffordable Care Act, known commonly as Obamacare in the United States, along with some other socialized medicine, monopolized, nationalized, whatever you like. Contained in my first book, Correcting Our Financial Miseducation, Raising the Bar for the Average. This book covers a lot of topics. It's sort of a guide for people. I'll have another video about that, or you can go look up the book and read through the chapters and things like that and learn more about it. Let's get right to it. So this book covers personal finance as well as larger financial issues. It's meant, like I said, as a guide for young people, although it's for everybody. It's instead of rubbing people's noses and what they've done wrong in the past, it's trying to get people who are starting out in life the advantage of learning from the mistakes of others, of learning from the experience, both good and bad, of those who came before, so that they don't repeat mistakes. So here we are with this. So as I talk about on the personal finance side, whether or not you should really be concerned with health insurance, like it's such a big deal, or whether or not you're better off just earning money and paying your own bills. We talk about the cost of a variety of things. But the cost of many things is high. And so after the laying out of these costs, we go on with this. This seems like a good time to elaborate about the so-called Affordable Care Act, the ACA, in the United States, which is more accurately monikered the Unaffordable Care Act. But also to take a quick glance at socialized medicine, or thrusts in that direction in general. The second section of this book is devoted to larger economic issues than personal finance and small business, and therein will be found a more lengthy section on the subject of socialized medicine. However, briefly exploring socialized medicine is appropriate here, since we're on the subject of healthcare. The aforementioned costs may have the reader tempted to take the bait of politicians who make it their business to prey on the ignorant, and who claim that prosperity can simply be mandated along with healthcare and medicine for all. Whenever you have a third party spending the money of one person in an attempt to benefit a second person, the results are always inferior on the whole, when compared with the results when a party is spending their own money in an attempt to benefit themselves. I'll pause to tell you that is, of course, the great Milton Friedman finding with his 4 types of exchanges. Of course, the most efficient is a person using their own money in an attempt to benefit themselves, because when you have outcomes that the person doesn't like, the signals are not blocked or interfered with by anybody else. If I go to place A and I pay this much for French fries, and I decide that and I go to place B and I'm getting more French fries for less money, I decide, what I would rather have. It's immediate, it's instantaneous. I don't need to ask anybody's permission. I don't need to write a letter to my congressman. I don't need to beg anybody to do it, or pour a bunch of money into a lobbyist. I just make my own choice, like a grown-up, you see. So that's the most efficient. And then you go down, I could spend my money in an attempt to help you. That's less efficient. I could spend your money in an attempt to help you. That's also less efficient. And the worst of all is if a distant third party attempts to spend my money in an attempt to help you. So the money of someone that the third party doesn't know, takes their money and attempts to help a separate party who the person spending the money also doesn't know. It's not their money. They're not the one who receives it. They're the most distant, and this is what happens when government, or socialism, communism, wokernism, New Deal, or whatever you want to call it, American liberalism, any of that stuff, it's all the same. All those things go to the least efficient use of money in the claim of increasing efficiency. We go back to the text. A plus B plus C equals total cost, where A equals the cost to the individual at acquisition, in this case, their subsidized insurance premium. B equals the payment from the government bureau to either the individual or the business. And C equals the cost of operating that bureau administering the program. Since governments don't have any money, and they only acquire it by taking from their citizens, the citizens therefore pay the full cost of A, B, and C, which means that the overall cost to the citizens must necessarily be greater than if the government program had never been involved in the first place. This formula ignores the potential costs of monopoly, or at least unfair competitive advantages, provided by such an arrangement to the few who don't deserve those advantages based on any merit. The prevention of new products or businesses from entering the market and coming into existence, as well as higher prices arising from a lack of competition for consumer dollars, the latter of which we shall see illustrated by the following material. The Council of Economic Advisors found in a March 2018 report entitled The Profitability of Health Insurance Companies that since the ACA was fully implemented in the United States beginning January 1st, 2014, the profitability of insurers dropped initially, but the insurance companies raised their premiums substantially. Their word, not mine, which were paid for in full by government tax credits. There was a required expansion of the Medicaid welfare program, which meant an increase in the amount of citizens being paid for entirely by all of those who pay taxes, and this obviously resulted in the insurance companies being paid additional revenue. From the period beginning January 2014 through the end of December 2017, health insurance stocks outperformed the S&P 500 index by 106%. This increase was paid for entirely by the citizens who pay taxes, while giving the illusion of cheaper health care only to those foolish enough not to see through the ruse. The CEA report also found that because insurance companies were forced to accept people who were in more costly risk pools due to their own bad habits, the cost for all insurance was forced to rise. The fact that there was a stable year-over-year enrollment in these insurance plans, despite a large increase in the cost of premiums, shows not only that the removal of the price mechanism from in between buyer and seller led to higher prices paid by the buyer, but also that the tax money is simply being transferred from the Treasury to the insurance companies by ensuring that those enrolled in the scheme whose incomes fell below a certain fairly generous threshold didn't have to pay any additional dollars directly, with the difference paid for in the form of tax transfers to the insurer. The higher costs did not discourage the customers from purchasing and therefore prevented the free market from operating in a way which would force insurers to either lower their prices or to lose customers altogether. Moreover, the report stated that the reduction in the amount of competing insurance companies resulted in the increased gross profit margins, which are premiums paid in less insurance claims paid out for the remaining companies. I'll start that over. Moreover, the report stated that the reduction in the amount of competing insurance companies resulted in the increased gross profit margins for the remaining companies, with 100% of their raises paid for by tax dollars. The federal government paid for, which of course means that the American tax-paying citizens of all states paid for 100% of the Medicaid expansion from 2014 to 2016, and 94% of that expansion in 2017. The average cost of the Medicaid expansion adult was 28% higher than those already on the Medicaid rolls. And finally, the CEA reports that Medicaid people more than doubled amongst the largest insurers as, quote, spending soared, end quote. Again, their words, not mine. The Chapter 10 will deal with this matter in some more detail. I felt it useful to note at this time in which we are comparing healthcare options that socialized medicine is not an option worth taking seriously. The choice is between self-insurance, which means just keeping your money and paying your own expenses as they arise, and purchasing insurance from a company. For those who save their money and invest those savings in productive and cash flow positive ways, the largest risk is having something major like a heart attack occur in their 20s before they've been able to save up. That's the end of that chapter. I'm going to end this video as well with that, correcting our financial miseducation, raising the bar for the average. You can learn a lot about a lot of stuff there. My name is Paul Dayton. My website's pauldayton.us. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day.